All right. All right. Back to our countdown. First, our Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast, the official podcast of WFAT. We have World Congress coming up. We're on the last day of September, so we are officially into two-ish weeks on the countdown. Two great guests, both speaking collaboratively at World Congress coming up. We have Alyssa Anderson and Jessica Huett. I'll read through their bios. Thank you so much for your time for being here. We just met, offline or off live, I guess. But here we go. Alyssa Anderson currently serves as an associate professor of athletic training and the clinical education coordinator at North Park University in Chicago, Illinois. She earned her PhD in health sciences with a concentration in healthcare professions education from Rocky Mountain University of Health Professions in 2022. She holds degrees in athletic training from North Park University and Ohio University. She's a certified instructor for mental health first aid and is passionate about equipping students and professionals with the knowledge and tools needed for holistic care of patients, particularly related to mental health. She periodically provides patient care to secondary school and collegiate athletes, lives in Chicago with her husband Dave and their dog Sherlock. Welcome aboard, Alyssa. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. And Jessica Huett works as the Director of Health Systems Technology and Simulation for Rhodes State College in Lima, Ohio. Her professional background includes teaching in health science and athletic training programs and caring for patients in varied practice settings. Her contemporary expertise within behavioral health has been developed over 20 years in clinical practice, an advanced degree in sport and exercise psychology, and certification as a suicide prevention gatekeeper instructor for the QPR Institute. Jessica and her husband Rob and daughter Elise live in Fort Wayne, Indiana, where they enjoy being active outdoors, watching a good movie, traveling, and spending time with friends and family. And so our goal today, Jessica, welcome aboard. Thank you for being here.
Hello, great to be here.
Outstanding. So we'll leave a little bit of time for watching movies, being outdoors, doing all the things that we all need to run and do after this. Quick check-in. You're presenting at WFAT. It'll be your first time at a WFAT World Congress. Wherever you want to take it, what are you presenting on? Obviously, the mental health angle of things, massive. We could dive into that. Maybe we'll do that in Dublin. What's the topic of presentation? Let's start there.
Well, we're taking that mental health approach and really hoping to equip educators on making it easier for them to develop lessons around mental and behavioral health. So imagining, we're wanting to teach the things to folks, but how do we go about doing that? What are some streamlined processes to making the planning of these lessons in mental health easier for folks to do?
Yeah, and I think one other thing we're kind of coming at is looking at education in its broadest sense. So not just professional education, but also thinking about continuing education. And we know there's a big gap for a lot of our certified, licensed, credentialed professionals in all their different forms and fashions. And so there's a gap. And how do we help address that gap by equipping people who are putting on continuing education to be thoughtful about how they're doing that so that folks want to learn about this and feel equipped once they've learned it to apply it.
Awesome. Gap analysis, obviously massive in our profession, in our field. And looking at this from a mental health standpoint, I don't say it's become buzzy, but we're just much more aware of the high impact of mental health, mental well-being, and talking about it. Like
Yeah.
about physical injury, we see injuries on the field. And then there's this there is definitely a gap in sort of education and knowledge and I think application as you're speaking to with how do we do right or best practice if we're not, certified or credentialed to be one of these people. Is that sort of a fair take in your experience? And I guess the next question I have, I want to go a million different directions here, but diving in, like, was there an aha moment where you're like, you know what, I'm going to look into like mental health and supporting professionals and educators and things like that along the way, or was it just sort of a natural evolution? Alyssa, we could start with you, and then Jessica, like, just go back and forth on that one.
Yeah, so I kind of fell into it. Like I've always really cared about holistic patient care, and like have dabbled in different ways of how that shows up, whether it be spiritually or emotionally or mentally. And then when I was looking towards my dissertation, I was really looking at pedagogy, but you can't look at pedagogy without having a content area. And so then the content area ended up being mental and behavioral health because that's where the gap was. And as you said in my bio, I'm an instructor for mental health first aid, which is global, but it started in Australia and the US adopted was one of the early adopters. And I don't know how far reaching it is, but it's a standardized curriculum. And so for my dissertation project, I was able to implement that curriculum and then add other pedagogical strategies to see how students could then apply those skills and how confident they felt about it. And then it kind of snowballed from there. Like I keep talking about mental health in different forms and fashions with different people and taking different angles on it. But I think what I want people to walk away with is that it's not just about your role as a provider, it's also about you being a human and showing up for other humans in your life. And so it's a skill set that I think transcends profession. But within our profession, we have a really unique and special place to hold space for people and help them to feel supported, to reduce stigma, to get them connected to resources, all of those things. Sorry, Jessica, I didn't mean to like
You're
totally
fine. Can
jump
I
all
just
over
say
that.
ditto, like to especially a lot of that
Absolutely.
last part. I think where my real interest and or expertise started to develop was through years of clinical practice before I really committed myself to teaching in professional programs in higher education. I was a practicing clinician for small liberal arts colleges in the States. And so working, with those patients and with that population, and having minimal, if any, access to mental health professionals was incredibly challenging. And so just all of those years of practice, that's when I really think started to dive in and want to know more about, behavioral health and how can I, in with the almost unprecedented access that we have to our patients in those settings, how can I best support them? How could I identify, what are some of those warning signs? And so, like Alyssa, it just kind of snowballed. I made a career transition into higher ed and pursued my doctoral training, and with that attached on a kind of a cognate in sport and exercise psychology. And so that it just really grew from those experiences. But really the seed was planted with some of the challenges that I was facing, as a practicing athletic trainer, and knowing that mental health professionals are incredibly packed scheduling wise, and so it can be really hard to just constantly refer. Always, I need to figure out ways that are within my scope of practice that I can support them, and it just has all grown from those experiences.
Amazing. I love sort of the organic growth on both sides and different trajectories, but sort of coming
Mm,
back together and coming back around to sort of just stackable skills that make sense and like filling in gaps that you've identified in various professions and development as you went along. We talked about sort of the caregiver effect of caring for lots of other people and, being in a role to take on other people's pain or other people's injuries or whatever it may be, mental, physical, all of the above. There's also an element here of self-care, I think, that you probably speak to on a regular
huge.
basis
Yeah.
with
I
athletic
think
trainers,
that
athletic therapists.
I think that's kind of how we actually started collaborating is the talk that we've done together before was about like how do we support ourselves?
Yeah.
Not just our patients, but how do we create an environment where our colleagues feel comfortable, where we are practicing some of these different techniques or strategies that can help us cope because we
Mhm.
have hard, challenging jobs and there's a lot of compassion fatigue and vicarious traumatization and all of those things that can go along with that. And so, like, thinking about how do we care for the provider too?
Mhm.
Yeah, and for and by people that have lived it or are living it as ATCs, both of you, and sort of in the athletic therapy realm, seeing it from the inside and identifying that, and then having reality to pull from, as well as obviously expertise in both your cases.
Yeah.
Alyssa, you mentioned sort of like, I don't know how far globally or how far reaching this curriculum understanding is in the mental and behavioral health side. And What a great opportunity to explore that with Dublin coming up. So you got to cross a little pond over to Ireland here coming up in Maynooth, just outside of Dublin, in the middle of October. Again, just over 2 weeks away now, and uh, I think, let's take it, I guess, that direction next. Again, not trying to take up too much time. I love this, obviously, the topic, the passion, and the expertise that you bring to the table. It's a jam-packed agenda in Dublin with educators, professionals, students, all of these things. Like, you're going to be able to see where and how these things fit in a lot of different countries with a lot of different people and a lot of different professions in one place. Jessica, I'll start with you on this one, and then back to Alyssa. What are you looking forward to with Dublin aside from, presenting at a World
Well, I
Congress?
mean, you said it earlier, traveling is like super exciting. So just that in and of itself, I've got a lot of Irish heritage, so I'm excited to like nerd out a little bit with all things Ireland. But with the conference specifically, I think you touched on it. It's we're going to see some colleagues that Alyssa and I know from our regional, associations and friends that are going to be there, but excited to hear from people that we may not otherwise because we don't have this centralized meeting spot in as in the World Congress. So I think I'm most excited to kind of see who is intrigued by our presentation and who is, out there wanting to teach more in the behavioral health space and try to find unique ways to support them that, maybe can help make their lives a little easier. So we're Alyssa and I are really excited. We have this template that we've built on, really organizing lesson planning, whether you are a director of sports medicine working for a hospital system, or you are a faculty member teaching within a professional program, or you're just someone who is, out practicing and you're wanting to develop, some mental health lessons for a group of stakeholders like parents or athletes or whoever that is. But where do you start? Right? We always think, okay, teaching, if I can do, I can certainly teach. And yes, you can, but how do you organize that? It's no different than, organizing an orthopedic evaluation, right? It's just having kind of a way to get this to fruition, right? So we have this template that we've created through our, mutual shared interests in teaching and pedagogy and adult learning. So we've put it together and hope that it can help, people from a wide range of, backgrounds and contexts, really put this to work and for it to be useful and make their lives easier.
Outstanding. As you're speaking, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go through the schedule, make sure that I'm in the room for this one. Templates and organization are not my strong suit, and I'm sure that's the same for many people who are in this field. Running around to either 6 different places or different fields, different sports, different whatever it might be. So that's an amazing capture, and hopefully a little bait on the hook for others that are joining. And we'll do it again while we're over there or afterwards to recap.
Yeah.
Alyssa, same thing. Extend on it or your own take.
Yeah, I think a few things that came to mind when you asked the question were just like I love the informal conversations that come out of conferences and all the like small side conversations and connections and people who like, just approach you and you're like, "Hey, I really loved this," or like, "Would you want to collaborate?" or "What do you think about this?" Like that's the part I love is like this is not like me or Jess and I like giving you information. It's starting a conversation, facilitating all of us. Like it's learning with and from, not just presenting to. So I'm just excited to like see what conversations come up. And I think there's a lot of commonality in terms of the challenges of well, mental health, but then also like how to communicate about mental health. And I'd love to hear other perspectives of how people are handling that challenge and navigating that. The other thing
Or
that's really
where are the wins too, right? Like where are we finding success as well?
Mhm.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay. The other thing I'm really excited about is I have more and more students who are interested in traveling and interested in like where can this career take me outside the United States, and I don't always know the best way to answer that other than like, hey, we have these reciprocity agreements and here's the places that have similar professions, but to really be able to have conversations to learn more about, well, what does that look like? How can we, you know, all work together and see how the tentacles kind of go out and cross over and go back and forth.
Yeah, and the obvious to that as well, kind of tying back to the travel, is like the ability to see and immerse in a different country, a different culture, a different, usage of the term athletic training or therapy, see it in a different way and see it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, in the US, obviously well established, sort of, big population, lots of athletic trainers are everywhere in different settings. Other places, may open our eyes in North America to how we can utilize certain skill sets or adapt. And I think that's the beauty of it, is also, getting away from home and seeing a different perspective and learning that way.
I was
Amazing.
listening to your interview with Lynn where she was talking about how many graduates they have in Ireland over
Right.
the last few years. And like, that's so exciting. Like,
I know.
they're turning out so many new athletic trainers. And like, I don't know. It just, I like got really pumped when to be like, we're, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but it felt like she was like, we're the new kids on the block, but there's a lot of energy and excitement here for this field. And that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. That's the great capture. And I think, having been to the last two World Congresses, the student component of things at the last one was unbelievable. Like the energy just changes in the room when you have,
Mhm.
it's refreshing
Right?
and it's renewing, right? For us who have been at
Yeah.
it for, 20 years, 15 years, 10 years. And it's just like, why am I doing this again? Oh yeah, like they're thirsty for knowledge, and the energy just kind of rejuvenates you within the room with a whole bunch of experts. I get giddy with these conversations. I get excited about going over there and being able to do this in person and capture some of this for WFAT and for our profession globally, and hopefully be able to capture what you're doing and again connect the dots a little bit for our audience that can't make it there. Any specific speakers or topics outside of your own that you're looking forward to? I know for me, and talking to a couple students that are in Ireland, on session 152, it was sort of like, we see these people and they're posting stuff on Instagram, and now it's like celebrity, right? Like now I'm in the room, now I'm able to talk, and I feel the same for experts like yourselves. You're presenting at the front of the room, but at the same time, the access is massive, right? Like to be able to have lunch or dinner or just walk outside, like whatever it might be, the in-person piece, the informal conversations, as I think you both alluded to. Anyway, I won't make this about me. This is about you. Alyssa Anderson and Jessica Huett, presenting at World Congress, first time there, first time to Ireland for both of you as well.
Yes. First time for me.
It is not my first time.
Okay.
I was lucky enough to have a sabbatical in 2022, and my husband and I spent a week in Ireland, and it was amazing. So we're gonna hit up some different sites this trip, but we like landed in Ireland, and he just goes, "These are my people. This is my place." Like
Right?
he felt so at home, and I echo that. I was like, eh, just the hospitality, the like
Yeah.
joy, they're just my people, right? Like that's the kind of vibe I want.
Like we've got Midwestern friendly and hospitable, but I feel like going over there from everyone that I've spoken with, it's gonna be that and like way more, and I am here for it. Excited about, the pubs and just immersing myself in the food and the culture and can't wait. I know there's going to be, this little conference that's happening all the while, but I'm just excited to be over there with one, my people, my, athletic therapy and athletic training people, but then also my people from a heritage standpoint too. I'm over the moon excited for it. So,
I love that. Great captures. I'm not going to take up too much more of your time. I'll leave you to close it out. My last capture of this is for our listeners, for anybody who's out there who's not registered. I think you still can. WFAT.org. Check it out. World Congress. It's in Maynooth, just outside of Dublin, October 16th to 18th. There's activities before, there's activities during, there's activities after, and there's that little thing called World Congress where both Jessica Huett and Alyssa Anderson will be presenting on mental health. Do you have a title for your presentation, or are we
I
just
knew you were going to
now we
ask
got to read
that.
right on the fly? Look it up, look it up, look it up.
There is a title
Let
somewhere.
me try. I
Yeah,
think it's empowering minds and uniting hearts, but then there's a second part that I can't remember.
I
So
like that.
feel free to check.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Empowering educators to teach behavioral health in sports medicine.
I love that. That's great. Great capture, great energy from both of you. I'll throw it over you to sort of just close this out. Anything you want to sort of leave the audience with, what you're presenting about, World Congress, I don't know, wherever you want to take it. But I truly appreciate your time. I know we're up against it on everybody's time clock at the end of the afternoon here in the Midwest for you and here in Canada and in the Eastern time zone. Thank you very much for your time. It's a pleasure to meet you here. I look forward to shaking hands in person and hopefully capturing a bit of the energy from over there. When you're all through your presentation, let's do this again on a deeper dive into potentially putting what you're presenting out there via podcast if you're up for it.
Love it. Love it. Appreciate it. James, this has been wonderful, and I'm really excited to talk with folks and learn from, people that are, engaged in the mental health space and wanting to know more and learn from them just as much as, we're able to share our ideas too. So can't wait to, take a little trip over the pond and meet everyone.
Yeah, and I would just say for me, I was already really excited about WFET and World Congress, but this like conversation really enlivened that for me. I'm just excited to get to know people and hear stories and think about the wins, think about the things that have been challenging and how we can kind of work together um, to make the profession and the field better and more equipped to move forward. Um, and I would say the last thing would be like, we're not just talking to like your run-of-the-mill educators. Like if you are in any space where you are educating people, whether that be in a formal capacity or an informal capacity, we've tried to make our presentation accessible for everyone. So feel free to join us.
I love it. And that's the same for our audience out there. Pass the conversation along. Alyssa Anderson and Jessica Huett, thank you so much for your time. It's Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. Again, we'll be in Dublin, so we'll be meeting you in person in just over 2 weeks. Thank you so much for your time. Really look forward to your
Thank
presentation.
you.
Sharing all your
Thank you.